Chatha, Pacha, the concept, can you imagine WWE happening in Kerala at all? That is almost naivety, right? It's silly almost.
And she sent that as an audition. We brought her down from Palakkad to our pre-production flat. She met me, was a, listen, I can't call you director and all that. I'll just call you by name. Like, yeah, cool. So you want to do, so she's like, you want to do a scene or something? Like, yeah, let's go.
ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ കൊച്ചിൻ്റെ കൂടെ ഒന്ന് സമാധാനമായിട്ട് ജീവിക്കാൻ വന്നതാണ്.
So it was just really nice to see so many people fussing over each of us. I mean, we've seen that happen like big stars when we work with them.
I don't think anyone here were like insecure actors, and generally actors are insecure, and it's not even our fault technically because our lives are out there, and one Friday decides like the fate of our careers sometimes.
So that's the thing. I mean, it's about the film winning. It's not about any of our egos winning. It's about it's very transparent. If I'm messing up and I'm not sure about what to do, I know that there's a safety net.
And once I know that this person knows exactly what they're doing and they're going to do a great job if I just comply and act as a tool.
So all I had to do was take this energy that I had from all these people and then just sort of shape it.
There were so many times when there were differing opinions and I saw them always handle it with a lot of grace, and that puts you in a comfortable position also. You feel like you can keep taking this and you're not upsetting anybody's mood.
We almost undermine the audience in thinking Malayalam cinema is supposed to be this way with thrillers or sort of like family movies or things like that. We want to make noise and we want to make these kinds of films too. So I knew from that moment it would be a great idea.
We Care Super Shield 100 Ultra defends broad spectrum sunscreen with 100 SPF. Buy now. This festive season, travel the world with Grand Royal Tours.
MCR Pure Cotton Club, formals and casual shirts.
Hello everyone, I'll start from here. This looks like a roll call. There's Adhvaith, the director, there's Vishak, there's Shaka, the producer, there's Roshan, and there's Ishan, who's wearing something very, I don't know what he's wearing.
I'm dressing up for you for your.
Like, what is this? It's like, what do you call it? Like a.
It's like a kimono shirt.
Shimono shirt.
Shimono.
It's also, when boxers come out, they wear the over top.
It's in the mood of the film.
It's the mood of the film.
Right. So
exactly.
I just want to begin by saying I really, really like the film. My favorite moment is when Roshan makes his entry. I'm not saying where, but it was like a very unexpected Roshan moment because I've seen him in all these gloomy films, like like I'm going to get an Oscar for this film kind of thing. But this is such a burst of energy. So was that a good change for you, Roshan?
It was so refreshing.
Yeah.
It was so refreshing. I was like, obviously we're all waiting for somebody to bring us something out of the box, out of the ordinary for us. So it was just so great and so encouraging to know that even before we started shoot, Adhvaith and Shehan were more confident about me pulling this off than I was. And there were legitimately times when I was like, guys, are you sure that I'm the right? They're like, absolutely, shut up. Just come and shoot.
Even in the look test, you were like, are you sure?
Right after the look test, we both get long messages from Roshan. The next morning when I wake up, it's like, listen, I know you're not very happy with the look yet, but like, if you want to move on to someone else, let me know. And I'm like,
we shoot in 5 days.
Yeah, we're starting now.
Because Adhvaith was like, he wanted somebody like big for this character. So I was like, there's only so much I can grow in this much time.
No, but you're like, I've never seen you in a role before because last year you were spectacular in that lovely movie Ronda. But you've always done characters. Like it's like it's Paradise or whatever. Like down the years, you've always done good characters. But here's finally you in like a mass like kind of avatar, and you make your entry at a very specific point, and you look sculpted. But they've done something very interesting with this face as well. Like the way you look. I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I mean. It's like your haircut and the look itself, right? It's very different, and it was very refreshing to see that side of you. Have you ever done that before?
No.
Yeah,
This felt very new for me as well. And actually, like both of these guys, and Anand Chandran who shot the film, Ronak who did our makeup, Melvi who did the costumes, all of them were so particular about how they wanted each character to look. And it was just really nice to see the amount of effort and energy they were putting in, because I don't do that. Mine is a very, like you very rightly said, mine's a very inside out approach. So I don't start on the outside at all. I'm like, okay, that's either I think that's not my job or that's secondary, both of which is probably not right. So it was just really nice to see so many people fussing over each of us. I mean, we've seen that happen like big stars when we work with them. But here it was very specifically about getting the look of the character. Adhvaith's so particular. He won't let one frame of the film pass. He'll make you redo the toughest of takes because he's like, those 3 strands of hair, that's out of place, man. Okay, I guess we go again.
You should have made me act in the film. I should have had that problem. So it's like,
and it's awesome because he'd come to me with something like that just doesn't look like Vetri, and you can't say anything. It's like, okay, let's.
yeah. So this film, kind of gave me the vibe of, a story about a dysfunctional kind of family, which is kind of like Kumbalangi Nights, but not really too much along those lines, but mixed with a lot of RBX like energy also. So it was like a very interesting mix of mood and feel, and of course the feel good factor was really off the charts because you want each of these guys to have that the good, like something good to happen to all of them. And before we're of course missing Arjun here because he's down with the throat infection or something. But the other person I'm missing is that fantastic little girl.
Vedika.
Where do you find her? Like she, the thing is, most children in movies are very difficult to cast, right? Because they don't have an approach as such or whatever. She was amazing. She just nailed because she's supposed to be this a little grown up for her age, and she nailed that meter just right. Now, how did you have to?
So the casting brief for that was that this 7-year-old girl is supposed to behave like the most adult person amongst the group, and the adults are supposed to behave like kids. Casting, of course, like a lot of like senior filmmakers say, like if you get your casting right, then like more than half your job as a director should be done. Like so, we went through a lot of options. Casting took a lot of time. We were very particular. We've gone through so many options, like all of us together, and like a lot of suggestions going on. And then we saw little Vedika's video in which she was doing a scene that Manju Warrier did in an old.
This is like an Insta reel or something.
No, yeah, it's up on her Instagram page as well. Okay. And she sent that as an audition. We brought her down from Palakkad to our pre-production flat. And she walks in, she is not nervous at all. She was so confident. She's done a TV show, like a dance show, everything. And I think she's acted in a serial as well. So one of the first things she told me when she met me was, listen, I can't call you director and all that. I'll just call you by name. Like, yeah, cool. So she's like, you want to do a scene or something? Like, yeah, let's go. So we did a scene. As soon as we were done recording it, me and my associates go to the other room and we're like, we found her. So
just to add to that credit as well, in Kerala, we don't have like a casting sort of infrastructure. Everything is done by the in-house team itself while we're planning locations and charting and everything. So in this film, if you've noticed, apart from Vedika as well, who's brilliant, there's also all these little young characters of Roshan, Vishak, Ishan and Arjun who have done such a fantastic job. And that credit goes back again to the direction team for doing that. I think somewhere we found a mix of like such a great cast which really made a huge impact, especially the kids section. I think
and I could say the same about Arjun as well, because it's not a role you expect to find Arjun in, and I think that makes a difference because the minute he comes in that costume, I'm like, wow, this is a side of him that I've not seen. And I think that also helps, right? Sometimes just seeing actors that and have at least mentally stereotyped in a certain way, saying that they're very good at this kind of thing and they usually cast in these kind of roles, but then seeing them doing these very externalized things, that's also very, very fun. But Vishak, what is the secret to this? Because this I think I found only in Malayalam cinema, which is that actors are not afraid to participate in projects that have other actors in equal roles. You usually find that in other language films if there's a senior actor and a junior actor or something like that. But rarely actors who are kind of the same age, kind of going through the same journey, kind of at the same stage of the career. And this happens all across, right? Like, what's the secret to that?
Well, on this particular film, I can say that it's this sense of comfort. Like Roshan and I, we go way back. My first film and Roshan's second film, right? Second or third film? Third film. So we go way back. Arjun, even off camera, we had like a little bit of a relationship. Ishan too. But I think it's that the space that the director provides is the most important thing here. It always comes top down, is what I feel. That culture of collaboration, and you're not trying to one up the co-actor. You're trying to give. You're trying to yes and everything the other person gives. It's that. I don't think it's, like you said, it's very difficult to get this in a Bollywood or wherever else.
Everywhere else.
Because I think it's about, more about the PR side of things and about how I'm going to be projecting myself and is he going to do better than me and all of that. But here I feel it's a lot more, not just with actors. I think as a team, everyone comes together to just do what's best for the film as compared to what's best for Vishak or what's best for Adhvaith or Roshan or whatever. And personally, the closest thing I've had to like a Nayaga on screen is Roshan.
Okay.
Because I feel the kind of chemistry that I get as an actor when I work.
Shall we just move them to like or maybe like a room or
been there, done that.
It's okay. We're great long distance.
It's that give and take, I feel. It's because I don't think any of us needed to be concerned or apprehensive about how is the other actor going to take it if I do a certain thing, right? Everyone was welcoming. Like, you go full power, bro. Like, you hit me, no problem. We just need to make it like as awesome as possible.
Yeah.
So that doesn't come by very often.
Yeah, and you can see it in the let's say just sequence. I'm just going to call it sequence with you and Arjun, which happens at one particular point when something very unexpected happens, and you can really see the bond that these guys share, and which fits like as two actors as well as within the screenplay, right? But tell me, as a young actor who's looking to make a mark, you do a Marco, and that becomes a big hit, and this film hopefully will check all the boxes. But so I'm asking about, because in other industries there's this conventional wisdom that you usually start with a solo project, and then because that gives you notice, and once you're in a project with a lot of people, this is kind of an extension of the question that I asked Vishak. Well, so how do you see this?
I think it starts from a sense of security. I don't think anyone here were like insecure actors, and generally actors are insecure, and it's not even our fault technically because our lives are out there, and if one Friday decides like the fate of our careers sometimes. So it may seem like that, but I think all of us are secure enough to know that we can see the bigger picture here. I know that I'm not in a place, like I need a Roshan or an Arjun or a Vishak for people to maybe see my work and see my talent, and one day maybe lead a project, but it's all like a stepping stone, and I'm able to see the bigger picture here. And I think in our industry, we, more than seeing like who's the cast, I think we really value technicians and people who are in the project. So for example, I'm also equally concerned about who's shooting the film, or who's editing the film, than who's also acting. So these
are questions that you ask while you sign the project?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Or things that maybe may not be in my control, but things that I would want to know.
Yeah.
Because it could help me.
So like a Mujib doing the music is an important thing for you?
Absolutely. It's a big deal. And being a part of the production in this movie, we were very particular that we surround ourselves with the right talent, because we're all relatively young and we're all starting out. It's a first-time director, first-time production house. So we want to be surrounded by people who've been there, done that. And I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah. So Shihan, who brought this project? Did Adhvaith originate it, or was it an idea that you had, this whole idea about Matanjeri having a WWE culture? Who brought it in?
So the initial idea was to direct. Like when I came to Kerala and thought, okay, let's do a Malayalam film and things like that. But we just couldn't find a script that honestly appealed to something. So we wanted to do something that would be as naive as I am. For example, Chatha, Pacha, the concept, can you imagine WWE happening in Kerala at all? That is almost naivety, right? It's silly almost. So
But that's part of the charm.
Exactly, that's part of the charm. So I feel like only someone like who's not related to the industry at all could, or someone like completely fresh could think about that. So I thought, we're not finding anything fresh yet. And then, of course, there comes Adhvaith, who so I'm based in Dubai, and he also has his family there, and he just visited us, and he had another script which didn't work out eventually for us, but and this was not even, this was on the back, but this was on his phone or somewhere else.
Something I had lost hope on. So
we met just for coffee, just for fun. It was just like we were meeting his friend. Ishan was there too, and in fact, it was Ishan who. So I think I went to the restroom or something. You asked him like, "Do you have anything else? By the way, you working on anything else?" like, nah, man, I'm out of ideas now. I mean, anyway, there's this like thing I've been working on, but it's gone. It's like not in my mind anymore. And then Ishan's like, Ishan, have you seen this? And it was the front page of a deck with like costume wrestlers. I think it was
The dive.
the dive, yeah, and which is still in our first poster actually. Like the very first announcement we did, that's there in that poster. And I was like, you are kidding me. I'm a huge WWE fan. Imagine this whole concept of WWE happening in Fort Kochi. And obviously that script version is completely different, and it was a totally different world, and we sat together, completely like broke it and rebuilt it, and 2.5 years later here we are. So
So what was your original version of it like?
It's pretty much the same concept, right, sir? But it was much more of a Nicholas Winding Refn sort of version of that, a very neo-noir
A
sort of.
Roshan kind of film.
Yeah.
Sorry, Roshan, I'm not able to resist this.
Please,
So it was much like it was way more serious. It was way more gritty. It was about the lead character finding an already existing underground wrestling club in the underbelly of Vipin, which is right next to Fort Kochi, Patanjeri. Wow. So, and that went into a whole other space. Like, it was became like a gangster film at one point. No, so. The reason I'd lost hope on that project at that point was because I'd taken it to a bunch of actors and no one just found it believable enough. Like they were saying that, who will believe that like something like this could happen in Kochi? And I think the sort of films that we were
like
used
as
to...
who would believe a WWE could happen in Kochi? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So because the sort of films that we were watching in 2018, 2019 as well, that was when like films like Kumlingi Nights was coming out. We were much more into realistic cinema. And I slowly sort of... left it, kept it in the back burner, and then when I told them is when that thought sort of came back, and I'm like, okay, they're seeing something that I'm not, maybe there is something to it, so let's try building it from scratch together. And I remember one particular actor that I had pitched it to back in the day, he told me this same concept, if you just switch it from like a person discovering an already existing wrestling club, and you just turn it into a person and his gang trying to bring up, try to form a wrestling club like this, isn't that more fun? Isn't there more fun in that? And so when Shayan and Ishan were telling me that, this is not the sort of treatment we want to this, we'd like it to be a bit more like, have more energy, be more fun, or like, let's say, massy as well. Yeah. And that's when I was telling them, this particular person had said that, so do you want to try doing something like that? It's like, yeah, let's go. So we just started jamming, and then like along the way came in these beautiful bunch of people, my cast. So I can't say that it's any particular person's story. We've all added so much to this, even on set, right? Like Ishan is adding his own thing. Roshan is coming up with ideas right before the shot. Vishak, that you saw the kind of character he plays. Half the scene is like just like last minute ideas. He'll come right before shot.
In fact, when I met him first, I told him, like today, you should have worn those glasses.
Yeah.
They add so much character to his character. So yeah.
So when I pitched this particular character to Vishak, this character called Charian came up in one of the later drafts, and there wasn't much of Charian. But then he heard the story, and then he's like, so what if we try something like this and all that? And then I'm like, okay, Vishak is willing to go whack with this. So let's add more, and then let's see how this can work out and all. So even right before the shot, Vishak will come up to us and be like, bro, listen, how do I do this and all that? It'll be so cool. I'm like, most of the time, I'm like, hell yeah. And if I say, listen, that might be a bit too much, he'll go to Shan. He'll be like, Shan, I've got this idea, man. Like, otherwise, he's not getting it. And then Shan will be like, bro, listen, you know what? I actually think that's pretty cool. And you're interesting the no? So yeah, it's just been like that. Even with Roshan, a lot of the funny one-liners in the film, right? If I'm feeling confused, or like Shehan, Ishan, Sanu Parsh, our writer, or I can't come up with something, I'll quickly go to the Vanity one. They'll be chilling, and I just say, this is a situation. What would be funny? I'll say something, and I'll just take it back to the scene.
So that's the thing. I mean, it's about the film winning. It's not about any of our egos winning. It's about it's very transparent. If I'm messing up and I'm not sure about what to do, I know that there's a safety net. Right. The same thing goes for everybody.
Yeah. And you were just mentioning this. When you were talking, there's another movie that this reminded me of. The craziness of it, right? Which is like Tallumala, because that's again a vibe that you typically don't notice in an Indian movie, let alone something set in a very local place. And something I'm not, when I mention these movies, I'm not saying this exactly, but you know what I'm trying to say, like that feel or whatever it is, and it's kind of so. Vishak, Ishan, and Roshan, can you tell me something about like some you worked with so many directors, right? If you had to pick one thing out of this guy and say, okay, this is something that really impressed me, what would that be? I'm sure there are many things, but like if you had to like pick one.
I think his level of clarity in the visual itself, how like what I sort of mentioned this earlier, how something needs to look or how it is positioned, how it plays out with music is also another one of his strengths, I just realized. But I think, yeah, that kind of visual clarity of, looking at something and going, no, this is not right for me. And the conviction with which he says it, you won't even feel like asking for a reason. It's like, okay, what else can we do? And that's, I think that it was also essential in a film like this because it is a world that we are setting up where anything is possible, but it has to be plausible for people to accept it. And we still felt like, especially with Cherian's character and all, we still felt like we could go anywhere we wanted to. But on the whole, Adhvaith always seemed to have, this is something that can sit in this film and this does not belong.
Right. And one thing, they keep talking about your character. So one thing I wanted to say is that what really stood out for me was not every character gets that much of backstory to build a lot with, but whether it's you or whether it's the father in a wheelchair, whoever it is, it's like that's just enough to kind of paint a three-dimensional picture of a person who is essentially a one-dimensional person. And that was very interesting for me, like as a whole. So script-wise, there was a very organically built world where you didn't need too much of explaining to kind of bring out every character. That was very interesting.
Yeah, we sat on that backstory. So we like have like a 3-page backstory of everything that this person has gone through. Some of it
your character
of Cherian's. There he had like a Russian girlfriend who dumped him and all of that.
But that's not in the movie.
It's not in the movie, but it informed our decisions.
Why Russian?
Because they're from Fort Kochi, and there's a Russian guy in the film.
Yeah.
So in my head,
a Russian influencer.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's a Dubai-based influencer. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
But it like, for example, I mean, it's not there in the movie, but then in that scene where the Russian guy comes, there was an added dialogue where I asked him how your sister's doing. But that's it. So small things like that, but it gives a lot more, dimensionality to that character. So to answer your earlier question, I think with Adhvaith, that's the thing. He let us have our way. And personally, for me as an actor, I work best where it's a collaborative space. If someone's asking me to do just this, go stand your mark, look in that direction and say that line, it kind of feels very restrictive. But on this film, he completely let me have my way, but also with a very clear sense of what he doesn't want. I think if you have absolute clarity with respect to what you don't want in your film, like Roshan said, I think that's the most important thing. So yeah, that environment that you created on set, that was special. It was very, very special.
But would you be opposed to doing a Hitchcockian kind of thing where he wants you exactly there, looking exactly there, saying these exact words in this exact way? Would you be opposed to that kind of a thing?
Absolutely not opposed to it, but I feel, so far, 10 years, I think this is the environment that I can, really flex my muscles.
This is your space.
That's the space. Okay. Because, I come from improv and I like to, do something different with every take. If it's the same thing again and again, it gets a little mechanical now and then. Not to say that, I'm not going to do films like that, but I feel it's more fun, to put it simply.
And very often it's a lot to do with the trust that you have, right? And it doesn't even have to be, say, a filmmaker who's proven his or her worth with a bunch of films. It can be somebody making their first film, but it's just the trust that you somehow develop through conversations. You don't have to shoot and edit and show me the first scene that we do for me to start trusting you from then on. This happens somewhere organically, I think way before the shooting process. And once I know that this person knows exactly what they're doing and they're going to do a great job if I just comply and act as a tool. And then within that framework, I don't want to call it restrictions, within that framework, I feel like every actor can still find a way to bring in everything that we're thinking about. Like you very rightly said, this whole backstory, it's all in our head. It doesn't matter. The audience doesn't need to know. It's not that kind of a film.
But it helps you.
Yeah, and it helps us fill those moments with something a little more valuable than just empty space.
And it gives dimensionality to whatever is happening.
Yeah.
So what about you? What do you want to say?
I think with Adhvaith, I have met him more than I've ever met anyone in the last span of 2 years. More than I've ever met anyone in a 2-year span, because we've been here developing the project, right? And it's come to a place that he's allowed me to collaborate with him so much that, you know, we talk about my character very openly, where I can even say, I don't think Little would do that, or I don't think this is that. And he's very open to that. And his greatest strength is his musicality, I think. And I didn't really understand that when we were doing the script, or even maybe during the shoot of it, because he'd be like, I'm not getting the rhythm of this. Can we try something else? And I'm like, okay, like as an actor, I'm like, what do I do to get the rhythm of it? But when it comes to the edit, and I sat with him and we were just working together, and I really see what he was talking about the whole time, because the way that we've put pieces together, there is a rhythm to that. And when we're doing music, there is a rhythm to that as well. And I think he has a really strong sense of musicality, which will take him a long way.
So, Shihan, as a creative producer, at what point did you start feeling that, you know, because something might sound like a good idea, but at what point did you feel that, okay, now this is a really good idea and I think this is really going to work? At what point did that feel?
I think those processes are still happening till today. You know? Like we still figure out. Oh, no, so I just texted him this morning regarding music. And we had a music session last night, and I just couldn't sleep because I was like, this is not working, and I didn't know how to tell him, because we always have we have creative differences sometimes, but we somehow make it work. And especially with music, like he said, he's really good at it, like so making things musically work in beats and rhythms. I just slept over it. I thought maybe it's me. I can't figure it out. And then this morning I told him, dude, it's not working out. And we're like, so this has happened throughout the process. I think for me, one thing was sure, this concept is going to work because it's bringing two worlds together. I think similar to Adhvaith, I also think of films, our references are all from the Western side of the world in terms of the filmmaking and music. So we knew that this would work. And we almost undermined the audience in thinking Malayalam cinema is supposed to be this way with thrillers or sort of, like family movies or things like that. We want to make noise and we want to make these kinds of films too. So I knew from that moment it would be a great idea. But in terms of this, knowing for sure that if this is a good idea or not, I think that happens.
That's a continuing process. Yeah. Nice. So, okay, before I come to you, because I want a longish thing from you, but at what point did you decide on the special cameo at the end, the extended cameo?
You mean my entry, right?
Yeah. That was basically a cameo.
The person that everybody knows is in the movie, but then nobody wants to say that person is in the movie. So
how do I even say this?
You still haven't decided. You still haven't decided.
We haven't decided, yeah. No, so this, if you, obviously since you've seen the movie, you can sort of tell that as good as it is in the script, if someone with a certain screen presence of his stature did not arrive in that moment and his performance did not arrive in that moment, this would have maybe not worked in that sort of entry at the end. So we knew on a script level that we needed someone of that stature. We had decided, in our minds, we knew in the first moment, but it's not up to us, right? It's up to the person who did it. And
I love how everyone's keeping a straight face. I'm like, trying
who are we talking about?
Trying to pretend that nobody knows what we're talking about. What is he talking about?
So that's when we called Denzel Washington. And
Thank God this question went to Shihan.
No, we were very sure. But again, like I said before, it's not up to fully to us. We have to convince a person of his stature. We have to sell it to a person who's done these many number of films, such brilliant performances, these many awards around the world. Can you do something as wacky as Chatha, Pacha? That was a challenge, but we were sure from the very beginning. And throughout the process, he was with us as well. He knew everything about the project. He knew the script. He watched whatever parts of the film before that. And then that was the sort of convincing process we had with it. But yeah.
Yeah, so Adhvaith, you worked as an assistant. No, I'm not going to ask about if you want to ask about the surprise cameo, which is no longer a surprise. I'd be happy to spend the rest of the interview talking about that.
But I still have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, nice. So that's like, he's the actor. You should kind of, I want to know what your backstory is. So, but
you do have a cameo as well. He has a cameo as well.
So when you've spent time working with Rajiv Ravi, Thurumukham. I think you worked with Gitu on Muton. Then you worked on Baradwaj a bit. I think kind of. There's one more film that
Jitu sir's
12th Man. Yeah. So when does being an assistant director, and I always ask this question because I've always met a whole bunch of people that say, I don't want to be an assistant director. I want to write my own thing, do my own thing, come up. And there are people that do that. And then there are others who, they probably make a couple of short films or whatever it is. You've also done the short films. But then you chose to put yourself through this period of apprenticeship. And therefore, does that help? How does that help?
Definitely helps, sir. It definitely helps, but it's not the only.
So that's
yes. So it definitely helps, but I don't think it's the only right way to go. I think assisting in, like, Jitu sir always says this to his direction team, that don't assist in more than 2 films. I wanted to assist, like, I was very sure that I wanted to assist, like, Geet Chechi when she was making Muto and all that. And after that, I went on to assist Raji sir. After that, actually, is when I tried to make the first version of what is now Chatha, Pacha.
Right.
Chatha, Pacha, but it didn't work out.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Why does Jitu say that? As in, don't assist more than 2 films? Is it because you'll imbibe their personality or something like that?
No, not like that. I think what Jitu sir meant was, he didn't explain it beyond that, but I think what he meant is that when you are working as an assistant director on set, I don't think we have that too much space to work on the creative side of it. You're just handling things. It becomes more of a managerial job. I, as a filmmaker, got to learn much more as an assistant director when I was in post-production.
Right.
So Muton had a very long post-production phase because we made different edits, sent it to different film festivals, and I got one-on-one time with Gitu Mohandas. And I got to learn so much from that. Turmogam had a long pre-production phase, during which I got a lot of one-on-one time with Rajiv sir. But on set, it's just been
like getting the day shoot done.
Yeah. It's learning man management, and it's like different people, they have different kinds of, they work in different ways. So you've got to, like, somehow balance all of it. That's what you learn. That's what you learn mainly on set. But more than that, I think after, like, whatever lessons I got assisting on pre and post of films, I think what helped me the most was working on advertisements. Because after working on these 4 films, while this project was being developed, just because I needed money and, like, ads were much more of a short-term commitment, I started assisting different filmmakers, ad filmmakers from Chennai and even Bombay, and I got to assist Prakash Sharma sir in one.
Oh, nice.
My 1 month, like, at Nirvana Films itself, like, taught me so much. Like, the ad industry, like, they only have 1 minute or, like, 30 seconds to convey whatever they have to convey. And the sort of ad filmmakers that I worked with, it was not the sort of filmmakers or the sort of ads which were very, like, direct. It was much more like, you know how Varma sir treats his ads, right? It's more about selling the tagline than the product itself. So the sort of references that they collect, the sort of resources that they are looking up from, it's so different. It makes you feel like, you know nothing. And I couldn't wait to take that back to films whenever I got to make a film someday. And I hope I've been able to apply some of those while making this.
Do you think there could be, like, this, I don't want to say negative side, but this other side to it where you maybe get too precise in the sense that you're saying, like, I want to say this thing in 30 seconds, but do you think that maybe that makes you afraid of letting a moment be, or something, let a moment linger or something like that?
Very valid, sir. So I'm pretty sure these guys agree as well. I'm big on structure. And I'm big on, like, planning, and, like, I'm big on beats. Even when I work on a screenplay.
That's what he mentioned, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So I like the idea of, like, a 3-act structure to start with, and then you can go into different areas after that. So, but my biggest lesson while directing Chatha Pacha has been to let go, which is where which happens when you work with such amazing people, like
because of Vishak.
Vishak, Roshan.
Vishak
Arjun.
basically did the whole movie.
No, Arjun as well. Like, right before shots, they tell you, they give you suggestions, and you have smart people working with you. I'm the new guy here, right? So it would be very stupid of me if I didn't listen to them at least, right? And I think the director Vignesh Raja said this on your interview itself, that the job of a director is just to be that final filter of ideas. So all I had to do was take this energy that I had from all these people and then just sort of shape it. And even with Shehan, right, he was there on set every day, and, like, we've been making this together, and, like, just when you think that, okay, this might be good enough, Shehan will come in, like, after a few shots and say, bro, you can push this a bit more. And then we get to the next level. So it's been beautiful like that, even with Anand C. Chandran, our DOP, right? I think what I was learning through him itself was just to let go, let a moment be, see what happens. So especially with Roshan shots or Vishak shots, I think like we are speaking about Vishak a lot because villains don't really need rules, right? The hero always has rules.
Yeah.
So we got to have a lot of fun like that because as I was about to call cut, either like Shehan or Anand will just suddenly like hold my hand and say, no, don't do this. Let's see what happens. So that's pretty much it. That has been my biggest lesson. I could go
you
on.
mentioned Anand.
Yeah.
I mean, that man is the most zen person on any set he's on. You know, no matter what is happening on set, he's in absolute control. You know, he's never yelling, he's never losing cool.
I think also because like we're all, like he said, we're all new compared to Anand, who's done so many films.
And having him on set really
and he didn't find it funny that we would tell him sort of what to do almost. Sometimes I'd be like, dude, I think your frame's a little too wide. And he wouldn't even look at me and think like, do you know who I am? He'd still agree like, oh, you want to go closer? I'm like, yeah. Like, if you don't mind. We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it. Why not?
But as creative producer, there is no creative producer in the world or in the history of cinema that has not fought with the director. So, and I'm not asking you for those stories, but you have a vision for this film, and he has a vision for this film. And as much as we like to say that, yes, it's collaborative and all, there is one vision that's going to be slightly more in tune. I'm not saying better, worse, whatever, but something that ultimately everybody has to get behind, right? Because otherwise, you're going to be arguing for your side of things, he's going to be arguing for his side of things. It's going to never end. How does one put their ego aside and say, like Vishak said, yes, this is all for the film. I need to kind of step back now, but this is where I've got to push. That push-pull thing, how do you... Because it's your first film. How did you learn that?
I think, like you rightly mentioned, a lot of egos involved and a lot of great people working on this film who have done a lot of great work.
Right.
So it's not just my creative differences with him. I think the most gratifying part of my job has been being in a creative producer position. There's a lot of people who come with a lot of strong opinions to Adhvaith and myself. I think managing all of that together and making sure that Adhvaith has a clear path towards achieving that vision as well has been the main thing. So a lot of people, like, for example, I think one person we've not mentioned so far is our writer, Sanoop. He's the one who has brought the local flavor. Now, I feel like that's what's grounded this entire film. He's the one who has brought the slang that you saw, the local flavor, the flavor of Matanjeri into this film. So he has, of course, a lot of strong opinions because he's the writer of this film. And I think him, Adhvaith, myself, the cast, the crew, everyone has opinions. I think to sort of funnel that into one vision was my main job, apart from my own vision as well. So I think that has been my role more than sort of course, the final decision rests among ourselves. And we've had many differences like that. But I think somewhere we sort of gelled into one sort of, most of our decisions are almost aligned. I think that really matters. There's been a lot of different opinions because I think that happens in a film like this, especially in a film. Yeah, it has to happen in a film like this, especially because a lot of people are very used to making different kind of films over here, and this is something that almost doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? This film. So I think that is naturally going to happen in this film, and I think funneling that into one sort of vision and one sort of output was my main part of the job. So that's been really gratifying in this.
Yeah, I personally found a lot of like comfort and confidence in the fact that they did this with so much grace. All of them, Sanoop included, both of them, Anand Sichandran, everybody. So none of them are easy to convince. You go to them with an idea, you have to have thought about it enough to have your rebuttals in place. And otherwise it'll not go through. And there were so many times when there were differing opinions, and I saw them always handle it with a lot of grace. And that puts you in a comfortable position also. You feel like you can keep taking this and you're not upsetting anybody's mood. The work will continue. And also it's very nice to get a check on, how sometimes you tend to forget. That's something I realized in this film. You tend to forgive yourself when shoot gets really exhausting physically. And we had many of those days. Our entire one whole long schedule was just fights. So on a day when you're taking 20 shots and you've gone for like maybe 20 takes each of most of those, and you get 17 great ones, you sort of forgive yourself for the 3 which were sort of just about okay, we can live with this. And those will be the exact 3 that will like it's figure in your mind for a while and then you put it aside. And the next morning, Shihan and Adhvaith will point out exactly those three. They'll be like, there. I think we can redo that. We are like, okay, great. Let's redo this. I literally remember that night when I couldn't move. Arjun and I had a really hectic day, and I'm in bed, and Shihan's in Dubai on that day. So he's just been sent all of the shots. He's watched it, and then he sent me a screenshot. It was like this, and this. I didn't find convincing. I was like, oh my god.
And we did reshoot a little. We took another close.
Yeah. So we fixed those problems. And it's great.
But Roshan, when one thing about your character is that in another movie, this could be an entire protagonist of his own, this masked guy who's had this thing happen to him, and therefore he's lost this person, and therefore something else has happened and something else has happened. But you're condensing all that into a very concentrated mask section of the movie. What was it like playing this character, and did it give you a kind of appreciation for the people who do these mask kind of movies?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because you fall into a comfortable rhythm of sorts where you do character-driven films and you feel like you have all of the time and the space that your character needs to tell their story convincingly and put everything across. And I definitely come from the school of thought where I feel like every character has to be the protagonist in their story. And all of that has to align for a film to work. I'm not saying main character energy. You don't take up another person's space. You don't take up undue space at all. But you are the protagonist of your story. That's like even when you play a villain, I'm sure that's how Vishak's approaching it. That's why it's so much fun, right? So like sort of connects me to one of the questions you asked right in the beginning of the interview also. Like, why are we so comfortable doing films where like it's a group cast? Like in that poster, Arjun surrounded by people who are doing their first film, and he's the same size as all of them in the poster. And this is great. It's fun. It's fun because the writing is good that it gives you enough material to think of yourself as the protagonist. I'm not just serving some purpose for the story. I have my own life. I have my own story. There's only so much of that story that needs to belong in this film. So for me, there was a huge learning curve here to know that, and this happened very interestingly when I was watching Tallamana also, that it maybe doesn't need as much time as it usually takes in the kind of films that I have done to convey something or to make a big decision or get a character to, take a big curve and like sort of change their approach to something. It doesn't take that much time because this film is traveling at a different rhythm and the audience are used to that rhythm when they're watching it. If we're doing everything right, hopefully, we've managed that. So you also learn to sort of like speed that up when you need to, or change your mind, make up your mind, do things quickly. It's fun. It's been.
So did it take a bit of time to get into that zone?
Yeah, it definitely did.
So like the first day you were a bit lost?
No, the first day actually was one of my most convenient scenes to shoot. It was literally my first proper scene in the story.
Okay.
So, and is it okay to say that I have a bad reputation for giving out spoilers, especially with regards. So we're all like waking up.
Like at this point, who cares?
I'm so glad you asked him the question. Oh yeah, that I don't really know. Sorry, I just remember that there was a montage sequence that we shot. But like the scene where, you're sort of like waking up and all that. So that is one scene where I can afford to breathe. So I don't think they really were conscious of it while scheduling, but I got my time to get in sync with the rhythm of the film.
We were conscious.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
No, but what I'll say about the both of them is that with their given screen time, they've been so efficient with it where they've given more than what's there on paper. Because I know the script and I expect a certain thing from their performance. But what I see while they're doing it is something like way beyond what I expected in the first place. For example, I'd see him. Suddenly we'll be, before the shot, we'll all be in the caravan eating or something together. Suddenly he's on set and he's, playing with his beard and folding up his sleeves and he's listening, but he's listening differently than what Roshan usually listens. And I'm like, okay, I can, I'm trying to learn from these guys as well, right? Including Arjun as well. I'm trying to take things that I can use later in my career. And Vishak, he looks at himself in the mirror in a certain way. He really, I think, cares about your costume. Like it brings a lot to the flavor of the character. And then he's building. And then when Vishak's acting, actually, all of us, everyone else who's not in the scene, we're behind the monitor because we don't know what's coming. So
what's going to happen?
And if it's a retake, I'm more than happy. I'm like, cool, now something else is about to happen. And it's just so cool to see and learn from these guys.
Now, one thing that's, I guess, not talked about enough, or talked about in a kind of voyeuristic way, is things like the six pack and the physique and all these things, right? It's like usually it's like, oh, this person built a six pack for this film, and they give these shots, and like it's projected as a big part of the film. But then you have a scene where you enter the ring and you take your shirt off, and there's a body there. Clearly you worked on it and all that, but it's not like presented in a certain way, right? It just flows into the scene. Like, but then you've also worked very hard to get there. Correct. How do you handle the fact that, listen, I really worked hard, I ate very well, I went to the gym, I did all these things, and now I'm not allowed the scene where I'm doing something like that, and like I'm just flowing into the scene right there. Does Vanity come a little bit into their kind of
I think we're all particular and on the same page about the treatment of things. Like, sure, we have a certain physique.
You guys are too zen, yeah. It's like, this is no fun. Like, shit, I had a whole argument.
I think that's the nature of our industry. We don't go out there trying to, get a slow motion shot or anything like that. But the scene is like that. So then we get to take away a little bit from that. So like you said, all of us have built a certain physique in the movie, but not necessarily like portrayed in a way where like, okay, this scene is for this ab. We've tried.
I'd like to see that movie, though I'm sure it won't be made in Malayalam.
No, exactly. So we've tried to make it more seamless, but also a part of the story. I think that's what the whole thing is about. Like, it's a part of the story, and these guys have a wrestling background, like the three brothers and Vishak as well. Like, we've grown up doing Gata Gusti, and we have an athletic background. So how can we bring that seamlessly without making it seem like this is for our vanity in a certain way? So yeah, it's a very grey area, thin line, but we tried our best.
But you do admit that there's one part of you that wants
absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
He did clean his toenails because the first thing to land on the frame was his foot, and he didn't want to close up with his curry. You were pedicure, right?
I did. But even our physique.
Didn't you also have a close up of your abs? And then we cut it.
but the prompts were very specific. Adis like Adhvaith is like Brad Pitt in Fight Club. Yeah, not that, but like maybe like 75% because your character has a lung condition, so you can't be too big. But also like we've tried to make it make sense. I think that's where the.
So, Shihan, at what point did this? When I say small, I just mean in terms of it's a contained production, right? At what point did this become? My three filmmakers, Dharma's, all these people are distributing T-series. Everybody comes in. It's become a pan-Indian thing. It's being released in Canada, this place, that place. At what point did this movie become that movie?
So going back to naivety again, like me being outside the industry, I just literally thought, I was telling these guys as well, like, and by the way, all these guys helped. Like Roshan knows someone at Dharma, or Vishak knew someone at these studios and things like that. But it is naivety. Like, I thought we could just pick up the phone and call these guys. When we went to Bombay, we just walked up to Dharma and presented this and spoke to them before and had meetings and things like that. And they loved it. It's as simple as that. Of course, there's a lot of conviction. I think the main aspect of this film in specific is that it's a universal narrative. This film translates across the world.
No, I get that, and I get the fact that these guys knew people. But what I'm trying to say is, what like, because you're a first timer and you're making this movie, and it's tough enough to make a movie in like one particular thing. So what made you have the vision to say, listen, this movie needs to travel? That's what I'm asking.
Because again, going back to the universal narrative thing, this is a concept and an idea that even, for example, when I saw that front page of that deck, it instantly clicks. I don't think you need to know the full story of this movie to actually be convinced that this is so wacky, it is so quirky, it brings so much curiosity. If you look at the teaser as well, it's so much curiosity in it, and we're just seeing a few visuals of it, the colors, the world we've built, that sells really well. And I thought that has to be told around the world, not just around the world, I think in every part of India as well.
Because here's a man who took his first short film to Cannes. So I don't think he believes in thinking small.
I think it deserves to be told everywhere, and I think it was actually an easy conviction to convince everyone across India as well that this film needs to be told in local languages across India, in local languages around the world, and things like that. I think it's rather easier than I thought because of how wacky this idea is in general.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've been hearing this all this while, like all of us have, that right now, if there's any industry that's making the most interesting products, films that's out there, it's the Malayalam film industry, and everybody knows that. what do you think, like after having entered, and made your first film, what do you think is in the water here that everybody's drinking that's making this happen?
Politically correct. Okay.
No.
Like it's like don't say don't tell them the truth. Let them believe what they want to believe. That's the thing.
I don't know, sir. I genuinely don't know. The only thing that's coming to my head right now is like genuine sense of collaboration.
Okay.
Because I think we know that like we can't make anything alone. Like
So Malayalam film is like a set of abs. They all have to be. Yeah, that was good, right? You can't just focus on one. I wouldn't have said it's like
Good one.
Yeah. So
you got your thumbnail now.
no, but yeah, just seriously, sorry.
So I was just saying, like, I think we're all pretty aware that like none of us can do this alone. Like there's been a genuine sense of collaboration, and just the fact that we're all open. Like I genuinely don't know. Like I've found myself thinking the same thing. Like when I was assisting these very senior, like very talented filmmakers, like what is it about them? Like I don't know. It's just some magic in the air, sir. Like it's just something. But I'm hoping you guys can give a better answer.
I feel like the audience is a huge factor.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
They're very demanding. They're not easy.
Yeah.
So the reason why we take an idea as wacky as WW in Fort Kochi for Chatha Pacha. The reason why the world building becomes one of the highlights of the film right now. I mean, like I hope everybody thinks that, but we discussed this is because we know we can't sell it that easily. People are not going to buy it unless we really convince them that this is actually happening. So that effort in turn reflects in every moment of the film. So that tells us that you can't just put one shot for his abs. So that doesn't belong in the kind of film that we're making.
I like that it's becoming a theme.
You started that.
He's wearing a kimono shirt because it's easy.
Act like you don't have something.
But yeah, I think that's a huge factor. Anywhere else we'd be like, yeah, so we're doing a WWE based film and we get into it. But here we're putting so much effort into, so people have to believe that this is happening.
And the benchmark is so high. So I think in 60s, 70s, 80s, we have such legendary filmmakers that we all look up to, and the benchmark that they've set is something that we're just trying to get to right now. Malayalam film cinema is like the talk of the town today, but we've always been great, and the audience knows that. So they're constantly measuring you against that, not against what's happening anywhere else in the country, maybe outside of the country. So I think that reference point is different for our audience.
Right, and also I find these small things so beautiful in. For example, there's a scene with Arjun and that where he's kind of does this balancing act on a boat that kind of seems to go nowhere, but then it kind of how agile and like how physically thing he is. So it's like you could have done that scene in any other way, like as in like. Because it's actually the point is not that, but him meeting somebody else. That's what the scene is about. But then or rather him being followed by somebody else, and that kind of writing is that kind of what I call invisible writing. Where it's not about this scene is leading to this thing right now, which is what happens a lot outside. And again, that's also a question of the audience, because what the audience has been raised on, you can't expect every audience to accept everything. So the rhythms are a little different. But this is something that really works. But finally, since the PR person that I know so well is glaring at me and literally burning me to cinders with her look.
A very non-scary fashion.
Very non-scary, yeah. So the last question is, with a star that shall not be named, what was it like, like being in that presence, in that aura?
Are we talking about?
Yeah, that's in Washington, right? That's what she said.
Oof, how do we answer this now? I'm gonna go last.
How do we answer without making it obvious?
No, but you can. Yeah.
I think
you can say things like, that movie where that begins with a B,
No! So I think he, just his presence.
Oh, it's a male star. Wow. Okay. I mean, do you think that's a spoiler? Or?
Is it now?
Go for it.
Yeah. No, I think just to keep it simple, I think his presence is very inspiring. Just his presence is just awe-inspiring. The the atmosphere shifts when he steps onto set. And that kind of puts everyone on their toes, you know, and when we're performing with them, we're like, dude, we're performing in front of this dude. You know, it's something else altogether. So, and he's a gentleman who inspires us to this day. He doesn't need to be doing the films that he's doing right now. He's doing it because he wants to do it, you know, because he's doing it for himself. And that's where I think as actors, we hope to be someday. Maybe not such a big star, but to be sensible and to have that luxury to make those choices, you know, where we're doing films for ourselves. So inspiring is the one thing that I took away from it.
I think there were a lot of things which were very magical for me, great memories. But one particular moment that I know I will always carry is when, so Adhvaith is, like I said, very specific in his direction. When he wants to alter things in performance, he will literally show it to you. And that's how he works. And he did this with the person I'm talking about. And all of us are like, oh,
yeah, I'm sorry.
And without a beat, he was like, okay, sure, let's go again. And he did exact, I mean, obviously like gold standard version of that. but
He actually did it well.
So there's no, I know how to do this, or there's no, that's not how I think my character, nothing. There's just absolute humility. And what I mentioned earlier, an actor working as a tool to a director's vision. And I saw that and I was like, holy shit, that is.
Yeah, I think mainly in that along the same lines actually. We have a very young crew and cast. Actually, the energy we maintained, like you mentioned earlier, was fantastic. And him coming in actually felt like he was a person youngest at heart, and he was the sharpest as well. Of course, he was so ahead of everyone else, of course, but also the youngest at heart. He had the most freshest ideas, the freshest delivery in terms of the approach in which he did it, and right, like it was brilliant. So I think that he sort of gelled with us more than like you would ever imagine. It was fantastic.
Roshan, remember what he said?
Yeah.
Body language.
Sometimes, I always look for inspiration in like sports or other things, right? But sometimes in cinema as well, you find people, because we live in a very ageist kind of society, especially after Instagram and all that, people, say, oh, somebody's like, because age has become a big factor in determining whether somebody is but to see people just reduce age to a nothing, like it doesn't even matter. Like, I'm just going to keep doing my job to the best that I can. That what sounds so simple, that's a huge inspiration, because it's like, it doesn't matter where you are in what stage of your life. I'm just going to show up on set. And this is something I've heard about Amitabh Bachchan as well, that he just is 7 o'clock or whatever, he's just there. There's like, he listens to whatever instructions are there. And, I think that's part of that's very inspiring, because you're not really, you're not throwing starry tantrums. You're not like you're just committing to, this is a job. And I know that I've been called to do this job, and I'm going to do this job to the best of my ability. And that's as simple as it is, and that's so inspiring. So thank you all so much. And you wanted to add something?
I was just going to say, it's also, he does these little flips to the brief that you give him, which is so nice to see, because he won't even tell you about it. You just like silently listen to the brief that you give. You go back to the monitor, you say action, and then just good flip.
Also, like to add to that, he even does this thing where we give him suggestions, whether it be costume or acting briefs or whatever it is. He'll be like, he'll look at you and say, I'm not going to do that. But then literally 5 minutes later, when he comes to the shot, he'll do exactly that. So even if he goes against that thinking, he'll still deliver whatever you want.
I wonder who we're talking about.
I want all of us to give everyone else a round of applause, because we went through an entire interview without mentioning a particular name. So well done. Very well done.
I hope we get to do one after release. So we can I hope we get to do this after release, so we can just tell you every single thing.
Yeah, I hope that too. So all the very best. As I said, I love the film. I really enjoyed it. It was different. It was enjoyable. It was all sorts of things, and I wish you the very best with it. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This has been great. Thank you.
We Care Super Shield 100 Ultra defends broad spectrum sunscreen with 100 SPF. Buy now. This festive season, travel the world with Grand Royal Tours.
MCR Pure Cotton Club, formals and casual shirts.